And it looks like we're live, everyone. Hello, this is another episode of Flowdoe. This is Flowdoe episode 6. I'm here with Ray Ramesh this time.
Hey.
So, yes, we were just talking about a little bit of the arts, and do we feel like there's something around here for the arts? How do we feel about that? How do we feel?
Well, I'll tell you my perspective recently is largely through the lens of a music and art teacher for Talbot County Public Schools. So I'm, am living and working in Talbot County. I've been there for maybe the last 7 years after growing up in the area, leaving for a while, Baltimore and DC, and then coming back. And then, before starting with Talbot County, I was in the area doing a lot of thises and that's in the arts, music, theater, and gigging. And anyway, there are a lot of people with really neat artistic ideas. I feel like the challenge around here is building a critical mass of people that you kind of need to sustain enterprises, different artsy enterprises.
Okay.
Because there are some really successful organizations that have good membership. I mean, there's and again, I can speak best for Talbot County, although I am in Dorchester a good amount. I've got a lot of friends here. I work with Groove Theater, and we always do a Nutcracker show here in the winter. I respect that Cambridge had an arts district way before Easton did.
Oh.
I think it's been around for, I don't know, maybe 30 years or somewhere around there. I don't know. Someone can maybe comment about how long, but quite a while. When this town was had a much different vibe, really different, not the kind of place you'd want to necessarily hang out at night.
Yeah.
It's a lot safer than my understanding of it a couple decades ago, maybe 3 decades ago.
Oh.
Anyway, it's but when you're in a city, it's just easier to find people, I guess, with similar interests. And I think here it just takes a little more work to kind of bring people together. But, there's an appreciation for art. There's an art league, I know, in Talbot County where, it's mostly an older generation of people who are a part of that. I think the Arts Council in Talbot County has been making an effort under leadership of Joan Levy to bring in younger people to their kind of decision making and to simplify the process for getting grants. I think that's something they looked at in the last year that, I think they figured was prohibitive for maybe some younger people. There was kind of there was a bar for entry that was higher than it really needed to be.
Oh.
And so have a lot of people who have been in the business for a while who maybe have their own 501c3 and a lot of this framework that kind of gives them access to grant money, whereas someone off the street isn't going to be able to get it as easily, or maybe it just seems a little obtuse.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna say this. I was with you a little bit, and then I got lost a little bit. So
I can ramble,
yeah. I was in it a little bit. I was like, yes, I hear you, but I don't know why my brain isn't processing some of that. But for the most part, yes, I understood what you're saying.
Stop me anytime.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I know. I have to, because I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to talk to people and how to properly gauge things. But
it's a lifetime process, man.
Yeah, it is a long process. Because I was thinking, thinking about bringing people, I guess, in for this area for the arts, because I know you said that it's hard to gather people around here. Do you feel, because I know in the last episode, or in the last episode and the episode actually prior before that, we kind of started thinking about what if we just had a building just completely dedicated to the arts, just it has a photography area, a videos area, just everything you would ever want, just kind of like it's I guess some of the areas that are around here that are specifically designed for certain activities, at least around in the area that people could go to. Like an arts area, completely
a center for the arts.
Not a center for the art. I know that's kind of just for all forms of just, I guess, artistry, just for people to kind of like hang out and do things and just kind of like a hub, like, you know, like in the city, it's like that's kind of everywhere really. You go around a corner and you can just like find somebody who's probably doing street performing.
You know, I think just in denser areas, there, you know, you have the benefit of more kind of like collective money. You know, you have the benefit of more people with certain interests. And so it's easier to kind of build, you know, kind of niche activities and clubs and organizations and things. I don't want to ruffle any feathers, but I mean, so there's the DCA here.
Yes, we did talk about that one.
Run by Barb C. So I think it's fantastic. I
Yes.
mean, anytime I've worked with her, I mean, she's just been like a really charming and smart person.
Yeah.
And so, do you think there is something
Well, because I was
that
gonna
the
say
building doesn't offer that would?
So, because when
kinda
I
more in line
I
with
was gonna
where
say
you're going?
yeah, because from what I was able to tell from being in the building and even working with them is that it's perfect for like looking at the various different pictures and arts that people have, and then they have that nice little back area, and then they have like the shop, and then I don't know how often you use the upstairs space, and that upstairs space is pretty cool too. But just like I mean,
It's a big box.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a box, yeah, but I guess in the terms of like just being able to like, because I know this is mostly like a city thing, because I'm gonna say it I have family that's mostly in the city, and when we're over there, it's just kind of easy to
Which
be
city?
like Montgomery. They're in the Montgomery County area.
Which
where
like Rockville, Bethesda, Potomac, Gaithersburg.
You said which one? Gaithersburg?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
I used to
think
live
it's
and
Gaithersburg.
work around there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think pretty sure it's the
I worked at the
Gaithersburg
Rio
area.
Center,
Yeah, and it's
at some
very
point.
yeah, and how it seems very accessible, kind of sort of over there. Just everything, just like you can like walk into an area and get like a certain vibe of various things. Where as like over here, you know, it is rural and a lot, you know, slower, and you don't really get that as much. But it's like, you know, it gives opportunity. I'm just kind of thinking more like that, where it can feel like that there's opportunities to be given for all. It doesn't feel like you know, only a certain demographic would walk in, even though that's not the case, because art, you know.
So what's a good example of something when you think about something done really well in Moco or anywhere? Can you think of something specific?
I can't think of anywhere specific.
So like what we were talking about before we went live, you know,
Yeah.
like in New York City, how they
Yes.
had this big room that was just dedicated for
Yes.
just publicly displaying large scale digital art, you know.
Yes.
And so that took a lot of work and money to put together, you know, just, you know, they had like 16 like 8K projectors and
Yeah.
like crazy sound system and just lots of, you know, it's just like a
Yeah.
maybe that's something that's lacking. I know, like the Academy Art Museum in Easton, I've worked with them on a lot of things, and love everybody there. They have a new director, Sarah Jesse, who's awesome, and I think a really great fit for that place, and just a lot of great people. I don't think they're not really built out to accommodate people interested in technology. You know, they have like a lab that has kind of been turned into a closet with computers that are aging and not really being used.
Yeah. Yes, like what you were saying with the New York City, just something completely like upgrading, I guess you could say, like updating our stuff to be actually dedicated for more of the newer high end stuff, but the, you know, newer stuff to bring people in, like that. Yes, because I guess my little thing is like VR rooms, how they're just completely dedicated for the VR experience. Having a room that's like completely dedicated for like, I guess like indie films that students would make, or I guess like a photography thing, or like a VR arts room. I'm not sure if you experienced like a VR art show thing. You're in a VR space.
Not really. Haven't gone into it.
Oh yeah, so it would be
that too much. But,
Oh yeah, I guess just a few things is that it's like it's its own art space. Usually the VR is able to like track the whole room. It's just a completely empty room, but when you put on the glasses, it's someone that created like a 3D render, and you're like exploring their art. I guess you can say it's kind of, it's that's another little thing. So just something completely for that, I guess, kind of, sort of.
Sure.
It's a little hard for me to explain right now. But
well, I think build and they will come definitely applies with projects like that. I guess it's hard for anyone starting something that's kind of new because it takes some investment of time and money and headspace, and there's you gotta maybe get a bunch of money and get people are like, well, how much benefit will someone get from like a VR room? And the people with money probably aren't most of the people who are going to appreciate it.
Yeah, that is an interesting point of it, because I guess jumping onto that little side fact is, just thinking about, putting myself in a space, is that something new that came here was I guess, I can leave my thoughts real quick. Why not appoint, maybe some of the people in that area, the younger people, to kind of like take up, kind of help out a little bit with it? I know this is probably sounding a little weird. I'm jumping off on something probably a little different. But when you said that they might not be interested in it, why not them thinking about like how it would return to them? Like what returns it would give them? Because, some of it, like you said, it's an older generation around here and they might not like some of those things. I guess for what I'm trying to say here is, why not invest for that return? This is kind of me asking them, just the return, like what it would do for them, help them out a little bit.
The return in terms of,
I guess, community and whatever else they would feel like would make it worth it, really.
I think there are a lot of people in the area who have had successful lives in various fields all around the country, and even further out than that, and then that come here to chill out, retire. So I'm sure there's like somebody who has had a career in tech or video or movie making, or probably anything that you can imagine that can shake the budget for a new project out of their couch cushions.
Yeah, I guess that's the hard part, is that finding that person, kind of, sort of. Cause,
that's why everyone isn't doing it,
Yeah, that's why, I guess, trying to, hopefully, with this, bringing it to light. I know this show might sounds a little strange, and I'm hoping it's not a little stale, but I guess mostly for, getting a little off the art topic. What about, let's think about this space. What are the feelings about how new things are coming in? What do you feel about that? How do you feel like that's being implemented, like in just everyday life? Do you think that we're implementing it?
New things.
Yes, I guess, like, phones, like the typical phones we have, and some of the consumer VR stuff, or just really anything that's new coming out, just putting it to the works, testing it out, really.
We just went through a couple years where we did a lot. We had to keep apart from each other for a while, and so a lot of remote collaboration happened. It was kind of forced, in a way. And there's a lot of really cool things can happen that way. I think just having taught like remote school for a while, there's a lot that you don't get when everything has to come through a screen. Man, I don't know. I think the internet is making people crazy. I think it's making people crazy.
You think it's making people crazy? I think it's just showing off how many crazy people there actually are in this world.
I think, okay, and it doesn't have to be either or.
Well, yeah.
Do you know what the Fermi paradox is?
Fermi paradox? I've heard of the word paradox. I can say that much.
So the Fermi paradox basically goes like this. Where are the aliens?
Oh.
We are in a universe that is at least 13 billion and change years old.
Yes.
I don't know what this is.
Oh, no?
I don't know. Anyway, our planet has only been around for 4.5 billion of those, so less than half.
Uh-huh.
You got to allow time for like the hot stuff of the universe to kind of congeal and form. Like it took maybe, I think, like 400,000 years before atoms could form because everything was just too hot for like particles to like, electrons and protons and quarks to kind of like stick together. It was just so much molecular energy, shaking, vibrations. Anyway, there's been plenty of time for alien civilizations. This is just assuming that humans aren't special.
Yes.
Which I don't particularly think we are. I don't think Earth is particularly special when you look at like the vastness of the universe out here. I think that's a big assumption. Anyway, there has been plenty of time for alien civilizations to evolve and develop astronomers and technology and control over electromagnetic radiation, radio communication, develop spacefaring vehicles to explore. We don't see any, or most people don't think that we've seen any. I mean, I guess there's been some stuff coming out from the government of like, it's like unexplained aerial phenomena or whatever the new acronym is that was UFO.
Oh, it's not UFO anymore?
It's like a UAF maybe, or UAP, unexplained aerial phenomena maybe.
Oh.
Anyway, I think they're just trying to not say UFO. Anyway, the point is, you would think, given like 1 billion years, I mean, look what humans have done.
Yeah.
Given 1 billion years, a civilization should be able to at least make their presence known around like their galaxy, just because of the sheer number of stars and planets out there. But it's silent. So, what conclusions can we draw from this? And there are a few ideas. One idea is that it's an inevitable, there's this inevitable wall that any kind of civilization hits where they destroy themselves when they get the technology that could potentially get them off of their home planet, out of their home solar system.
Huh.
We can think of a few ways that could happen on this planet already.
Yeah.
That maybe we're the only life in the universe. Maybe we are special. Maybe life is just very uncommon. I don't know.
Huh. Yeah, that is a interesting thought.
So, that's kind of what comes to, I don't know. I just love thinking about stuff like that and learning about, ideas like that and the people who think about things like that. And I just wonder, I just think there's no control for this experiment of everybody having phones and cameras and being able to share anything with the whole world instantly. We don't know where it's going to go. We don't have like humans with the internet and humans without the internet to see like how much it's kind of changing our perspective.
I would say we kind of have that with, I guess, because the Amish, they don't let any technology in or anybody really into their civilizations, but I guess that's one area. And then
that's not a bad point. I mean, the Amish are a really particular type of people.
Then there's, I will say there's also I'm pretty sure it's North Korea, right? It's the one without all the technology and such as then
they have technology, but they're just they're kind of this cult.
Yes,
country.
I was gonna say, because some of their people don't exactly know exactly what some of the stuff on the outside exactly looks like. Mm-hmm. But I guess going off of that, it's like that is an interesting thing to bring up. Really, just the different I guess outlooks now that we have, because you just said that with the internet now everyone's dumber when it could just be unlocking the fact that everyone's possibly more dumb.
I wouldn't say dumber. I don't know if it's dumber. So there's a quote attributed to Plato, and the gist of it is that he's lamenting the proliferation of literacy and like just the ability to read and write, complaining that now people are going to go soft because they don't have to remember everything. They can just go and look on their fancy parchments to like remember, whatever history or whatever fact, just anything. You don't have to keep everything in your brain anymore. It was like, this is just going to make us soft. This is bad news. And we're fine, just different.
It's a different way to, I guess, think about that, because I guess thinking about it for that, because parchment being new technology, I guess, for back then.
Yeah, it was just a new paradigm.
Yeah.
You know, in the Gutenberg press, you know, that was a milestone, being able to mass produce stuff.
Yeah. And now we're at this stage where we're just like instantaneous. It's just there. You don't really need to like, yeah, well, I guess not. One view that I have, it's like, you don't really need to like, because in my opinion, I felt like schools being invented back then was to be that information hub, because everything couldn't be instantly at your fingertips. Now we're at a stage where it's like, we've outgrown it, kind of, sort of, in a sense, when you think about it in certain ways. But everyone's still a teacher, because everyone still has knowledge that someone else wouldn't know about. It's just we ask technology now for the answers versus sometimes even finding it ourselves sometimes. And it's an interesting thought, just kind of outgrowing things, outgrowing the old, and then some people being stuck in that old way. And I mean, that
yeah, I think it's an inevitable fact of life, you know, and because people like just, I don't want to say get stuck in places, because I think it's just normal for people to kind of, I think our musical taste is largely cemented by the age of 14.
Yeah.
16 did
Probably.
kind of that area. I mean, and not to say that people don't grow up, because they absolutely do, and
Yes.
I do. But, you know, the music that I was listening to when I was 14 still hits me like in an emotional way that a lot of other things don't.
Oh.
I don't know. Is that your experience?
I'd say mine evolved a little bit, just a little bit, because I guess I'm still in that genre. I'm just deeper in that genre, I guess.
Sure.
For lack of a better terminology of it, because what exactly is that music then that hits you oh so specially? Quite curious now.
You know, when I was kind of in an angsty teenage phase, I was listening to a lot of Offspring. And there are some songs of theirs that just like hit me like a ton of bricks, you know. Really on a purely emotional level.
Yeah.
Like having learned a lot about music since then. Like it's not a particularly interesting band, but it was just a time and a place.
Yeah. That is interesting. That is kind of interesting, because I guess when you said I don't know, did they do the one song, You're Gonna Go Far, Kid? Is that the Offspring? Is that,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I heard that song. I was like, yeah. I guess I was going to say, because I listened to that too. And even though it was like a different time frame, because I think I was probably too young for that song, thinking about it now. But it's like, But the way I consumed it was a different media format. I was playing a video game when I heard it, type of ordeal. So, yeah.
So yeah, I think there's inevitable tension there. You know, I've noticed that. So I'm a music teacher and now art, and you know, I've really leaned into kind of my background working in recording studios, and you know, on the production side of things. You know, because I feel like they're going to have other music teachers in their lives that really emphasize Bach and Beethoven and all those bewigged dead white dudes like of, you know, music history. That's a lot of, you know, where a lot of academia is kind of steeped in that slant, that angle. And it's just, you know, because I came at the job from outside of like the pipeline of music teachers, you know. I kind of came at it from working in recording studios and production and just lots of different things, you know. They don't really emphasize that when you're kind of learning to be a music teacher.
Because I know I'm going to jump back, because sometimes I do like to jump back on the school train sometimes. I'm thinking back, I'm just like, it is interesting when you think about how mostly at schools we're always like retraining how the wheel works in kind of a way. It's like, you know, they were big for their time, but the way they produced their music was very different to how we produce it, you know, now. And it's like we don't really expand off of the stuff that's happening now type of ordeal when you think about it. In some ways, it feels like they're kind of just, you know, it's reteaching the wheel, and we're kind of...
It's an organic process of the, you know, new people coming in and older folks sticking around for a while. And
that does make me wonder, because I guess I don't mean to cut you off if I did, but it made me think a little bit, because I'm just like, in like the time where I'm probably at the age of everyone that's been telling me how things work, I'd be their age telling the younger ones how it would actually work. It's kind of an interesting interesting ordeal when you think about it.
And it won't be too long before that paradigm's out of date.
Yeah, it's a little shocking because, going back to, the VR thing, like I was telling you before the recording, that, been through a lot of VR experiences because I really like technology and VR because I'm just like,
Sure.
Like you can get worlds that you've never experienced before. Like the one roller coaster ride that I was on, that was the digital VR, and it was kind of like 4D because you felt all the elements that were coming at you. And it's like, that wasn't really a thing back when my parents were like growing up, and then their parents. That's just kind of a me thing. And then there's people developing stuff for that VR world center in that niche and expanding upon it. It's kind of like,
So, do you have an opinion on the metaverse?
A little bit, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because the metaverse, I'm just sitting here like, because if that becomes the case, because I'll say VR is pretty strong. A lot of people go in there, like you'll see, I guess one experience that a lot of people have been on is VR chat. A lot of those avatars, they do not represent what the person actually might look like. Because, everyone has different body types. Like, I could be a thin dude going in with, like, a bigger dude's avatar. And a lot of people have that vision of me now. It's like, they'll see me in real life and be like, you're not that guy. Or you're not that person that,
Well, who's to say you're not? Maybe that's just your digital manifestation that has always existed, and now there's just this channel for it to, I don't know, who's to say you are or are not that? I mean, so you have a physical body, but you also have a brain that's part of your physical body that's making you want to represent yourself in a certain
different
way, in a different realm of existence,
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is technically still, in my opinion, existence with how some of these things are happening, because I know I'm very much so into like biotech and all this other crazy mess where people are like, yes,
Neuralink,
consciousness and stuff like that, and it's very freaky, some of the stuff that's able to be produced, because there's currently a game in VR right now where you can put on a Neuralink and no controllers. You can like move your character and move your hands, and it's very freaky stuff.
We're in the Pong phase.
Yeah,
we're in the Pong phase. Of,
the beginning.
VR, right?
Yeah, the very beginning of like when that first guy made the code for the very first video game. Even though there's like other people saying that there's very other things, but I'm like, that's easy enough to understand because now it's like weird because we're like in that stage where not everyone's really accepting it. I guess in a sense, a lot of people are still saying screen time needs to be lessened when it's probably at an all-time high. There's like different experiences that we now get to go through. Traveling is a lot more easier. You don't now need to just travel down to like New York. You can now put yourself into a headset where you're in like Future of New York or something crazy like that. It's like we're kind of. And then you think back a little bit to how we're all just like learning back from the very, very beginning, trying to retrain the wheel, even though we're not like training for the time period we're in right now, which is like, it's interesting stuff when you think about it. Because in my opinion, I still kind of worry, like if I get to a certain age, it's going to get to a point where I'll be able to talk to like my great, like 100 great grandchildren because they done something to my brain to keep, I guess, kind of sort of a conscience still there, because there's projects out there that still do that where they capture someone's consciousness and they still upload it in like.
Did you see the movie
format.
She?
I've heard of that movie. I've been recommended to watch it. I have not watched it.
If you're into that kind of thing, it's basically people get this personalized, like they call it an operating system, and it's just this like digital cloud-based personality and it just like scans all of your emails. It's just like a custom fit personality, and this guy's basically falling in love. He like falls in love with this
I may have heard this
operating system, and it really kind of explores what that world might be like, and it makes sense that it would go in that direction. It kind of freaks. Yeah, great movie. You should totally check it out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I guess if that creeps you out, I'm gonna say that's kind of happening already. There's actual bots nowadays that do. Have you heard of deepfakes?
Yes.
Yes, that will deepfake themselves onto like various real things, sending you messages as if they're a real person but never existed. It's kind of some spooky stuff because there's already a few people who have fallen in love with some of these digital bot creations, and they're still like thinking
Getting,
like
like,
real.
catfished.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's kind of
sure.
weird because they're like because the whole conversation for the longest I've seen is like 4 years. Yeah, like, and they haven't caught on, or they have caught on, but they just don't want to like get
And
out
they
of
don't
it.
think about it too
Yeah,
hard.
like I'm like that's kind of
Yeah, I mean, if you
weird.
can appreciate it for what it is, I don't think I'd really have a problem with it. I think
Yeah.
it's when the language just starts to change. Like, being friends on Facebook, I think is like a really weird use of the term friend. It's kind of
Yeah.
appropriating. I mean, and I get why it exists. It's appropriating like a known thing with something else to kind of sell this new thing to people, or like how we have our recycle bin on our computers.
yes.
There's no
Yeah.
bin, nothing's getting recycled, but
No.
it's like
It's just-
so this new thing is kind of like absorbed.
Well, I guess it's recycling data because it's just taking that data off and just repurposing
Sure.
it. Yeah.
Sure.
I know. Sorry, me being technical. I know. I'm a tech
No,
guy.
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I like deep.
Or
deep
I mean, a lot
getting
of
into it.
it's called trash, I think, or what
Yes,
maybe
yeah,
on
whatever.
a Mac it's called trash, and
Yeah.
maybe it's recycle bin and on a PC. Or
Yeah.
I think anyway, but
It's interesting. Yes.
I don't know. I just look at a lot of these things as like one maybe a little baby step towards the Matrix, and that freaks me out a little.
Well,
bit.
I'm gonna say it. I personally think we're kind of already in it. Well, not in it, but we're close enough to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a slow progression. It doesn't just
Yeah.
like out of nowhere we all go into pods.
Yeah,
and
basically.
live our
It's-
lives there. It's a slow boil. The frogs
Yeah.
in the
We're
boiling
because
pot.
I'm gonna say because there's a lot of crazy technology that I haven't realized that I personally think we should start digging more into, like in the schooling system, because I know a lot of it is like already pre-written and it's all way back for old stuff that a lot of people say that we shouldn't bring up, but it's still good to bring up to keep the mistakes from happening again. But we should also learn, I guess, more about what's happening now. Like, have you heard of? There's this one project where there's like these weird hybrid. Well, basically, there is talk that was funded that there is now half human, half animal hybrids that are now a thing. Like,
Where?
it's a Japanese thing, I think, or somewhere in that area. It was. I do know one area. I'm pretty sure one lab. I think it's in Seoul that was doing a test for like kind of like these fake generated human things. Like, I don't exactly know what to like call it, but they're like humans that are like generated in a bag, and it's really freaky. It's really weird. And then like the hybrid thing I was talking about, I'm pretty sure that was in Japan. I don't know where exactly in Japan. Like, they were trying to test like they're gonna try to figure out how to like mesh them together with like biotech and all this weird bio stuff. It's kind of weird, kind of very weird. And then I guess in the form of the digital space, we now have digital celebrities. Have you heard of those?
No.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole nother wormhole. If you are scared about the internet, there are now digital celebrities. And
What does that mean?
So basically, they don't exist. They're all AI generated, and
They don't exist in the physical
sense.
It's not
They
like based on a
yes.
person.
No.
So
They're
it's like a
created-
celebrity. Oh, so go on. Okay.
Okay, so they are a person created in a space, because I think there was a news article on it. They're created in a digital space, and there goes my hat. They're in a digital space, and so basically they interact and talk with their community through social medias like Instagram and such, and they create like their own weird AI generated like scenes that look almost photorealistic of them doing things like everyday life. And it's very spooky, kind of creepy stuff.
I mean, I
because-
can see that being really successful if their inputs are just like scanning all of social media and
Yeah.
figuring out like
That's exactly what it does.
is gonna blow up next.
Yeah,
or
it's-
how do I want people to react to me? What can I do to elicit that reaction?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, it's kind of like this evolving like real time focus group kind of kind of thing.
Yeah, which is spooky because, with information is probably the most valuable thing anybody can have nowadays. Like,
And being able to process all of it.
yeah, to turn it into like revenue. But if you have the information, it's something else. It is completely something else when you think deeper into it. Because I know I'm a tech guy. I like digging into that sort of stuff. That's why I kind of started the show. And hopefully, I know we jumped off ship way back. That's why I was like, what if we implemented it? Like, I know a lot of them say that they want to like chill and like slow down, but in episode with Brian Roche, we were talking about how it kind of might not matter anymore where exactly you live if everything becomes digital. Like, you go do your job, and you can do physical things, within your zone, because everyone needs like that physical aspect. But if it's information you need, you can get that off of the internet, and then the social aspects can be done in the city type deal. I know it's kind of some pretty crazy stuff. I would have to think more into it and actually like write out probably a script on how everything would kind of work, on how that would work out. But how I saw it kind of sort of was like schooling would be an information based thing. No more going into a schoolhouse. You have to be like logged in, and especially with how technology is nowadays where almost everybody has internet, and if you don't have internet, then sure, you can probably go to like a building with said internet type of ordeal. And then you would have a second type of learning where it's like actual physical education type deal, where it's actual like social skills and all that other stuff. Because one I guess learning structure that is kind of crazy in Japan is that younger kids, they don't learn academics first. They learn socially correct first, and then they learn about academics, which I kind of thought was interesting because, you see them and they're, in those Asian countries, they usually do have like really intense work habits. Like, they know how to work, but it's at a detriment to their mental health sometimes. But what do you say about that?
Well, I
know because I was
a lot of thoughts on
that.
No, that's those. So one thing that comes to mind that I think is super interesting, just mentioning like work ethic, and of course that's a stereotype, but
yeah,
there's, there are ways to kind of measure it, and one is, and I'm going to try to recall this story that Malcolm Gladwell tells about this kind of where this work ethic comes from. There's some like standard math tests that kids take, and a lot of countries in Asia end up coming out on top of like let's say math, for example, in ranking in terms of like how well they do.
Yes.
And they also kept track of, I guess when they administer this test, they keep track of how long people have the test. So like how much of their time do they use, that's allotted to take the test. And when you stack up which countries took the longest time, like working on it, it matched up to how well people scored. Meaning that there's a correlation between how long you spend on something and how good you are at the thing. That just having the ability to focus on something longer is going to make you better at it. There's no like, it kind of undermines the idea that there's like some secret sauce or secret way of like learning that's more significant than just like work ethic. And he takes this idea back to the beginning of he makes a connection between the beginning of the agricultural revolution. So like comparing, where a lot of this culture came from, like Europe, know, what were they growing in Europe at the that kind of became a staple of, this is a question for you. Like, so what was like the main staple of food in like Europe when the agricultural revolution happened?
I'm out here getting schooled. I have no clue.
Like
actually.
wheat, bread.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Okay,
wheat.
yeah. Okay. Yeah,
they figured out how to grow wheat, and they're like, oh, well, we all have bread. Like, this is awesome. Great.
Yeah.
What did they have in Asia?
They had rice.
Rice, yes. And so if you look at what kind of what's involved in growing wheat versus rice, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
A farmer, growing wheat might spend about 1,000 hours a year kind of working on just like some arbitrary size plot of wheat. That same plot size of rice takes about 3,000 hours. So there's like a significant difference in the amount of work it takes to grow rice versus growing wheat. And he kind of draws this kind of work ethic culture all the way back thousands of years to when we were like a subsist or living, like, what is it called? Subsistence living,
Yeah.
right? Where you just kind of grow what you need and your family needs and maybe a little more. And that like work ethic has just been baked into the culture, and we're just kind of seeing this evolution of that, or kind of
that is
that
interesting.
playing out.
So then that would make, I guess, because I guess you saying that, because that made me think, because that would make, I guess, sense why, I guess, behaviors in like Asian countries about the respect being, I guess, higher is because they do spend more time on it a little bit, I guess. From the sound,
I don't know that it's necessarily related that way, but I don't know. I mean, that's one
that's
what
one
I
way
love
to think about it. But
like what I really get from Malcolm Gladwell is that he just, he like through research just finds these connections between things that are not intuitive at all, and it's just like really refreshing. To me, to like be reminded that the universe doesn't care about the limits of our imagination.
Yeah.
That things play out in all kinds of ways that are just go right by our like intuition.
Yeah.
So, I think when it comes to, to circle back to technology, I think being exposed to all this stimulation and just like having everything all the time doesn't lend itself to building attention span.
Okay.
And and there's a profit motive to like get people's attention, right? And so there's a lot of like intense competition and a lot of really smart people dedicating their livelihood to figuring out how to grab attention. I've like spent a lot of years like teaching music, a lot of individual private lessons, and in the classroom. I will tell you, the best adjusted kids are the ones who have policies limiting screen time at home. For sure.
That's an interesting one. That is interesting, because I do know a lot of people say, that because of that, it does make it harder for us to keep a good attention span. But if hearing
I would
that,
say
it's
longer attention span.
Yeah,
I
longer.
don't want to necessarily say good or bad, because it goes back to like what I was saying about like the Plato quote, right?
Yeah.
It's different. I don't, there are maybe aspects of it that are good or bad, that are ideal or not ideal. But I mean, you think about the things that, well, I'd say I have to speak for myself. The things I'm most proud of are the projects that I spent hundreds of hours working on.
Yes.
Like the Nutcracker thing that Front Porch Orchestra plays every year. Like that took about 400 hours maybe of arranging and rearranging and rearranging and just sitting in front of like a bunch of orchestral scores and my iPad just notating stuff out. And so, I think on that level, you highlight the value of, being able to stay focused on things. But, there are people who adapt to really fast-paced, shifting of attention.
Yeah. I was going to say, because...
And there's some things you can do with that ability that, you can't do, like that Thoreau couldn't do.
Yeah, so, because, thinking about it, because I'm, like, hearing it from that perspective, because I'm, like, me being a technology nerd and geek, I'm sitting here always thinking about the newest and what exactly to do to, like, expand upon things with the technology world. And hearing when you said, screen time, the screen time and all that other sort of stuff, I'm like... What was I going to draw my conclusion to? I was going to draw it to that's interesting that you say that, because it's like, what was I going to say? I was going to say something and then I lost it. I hate when that happens.
I mean,
it's like on the tip of my tongue.
I guess your interest in technology kind of inevitably means you're going to spend a lot of time in front of a screen, or anyone would spend a lot of time in front of a screen. So let's see, I was saying there are definitely some benefits to keeping attention and the things I'm most proud of.
Because I guess that's where that would come in. Because all right, let me jump. I'm gonna jump back real quick. I guess because playing music, I guess you don't a screen, that's not in the equation of music at all. When you're playing music, you're playing for nature and the people. And when I think about,
finish your point.
Oh, what was I gonna say? So because I guess because I play guitar, and the way I learned was through technology, and I played and learned, kept learning and learning and learning to the point where I could play some pretty intricate stuff. But then when I have to turn it off, it's like I'm playing to nature type of ordeal, and I feel like sometimes. Because then I have to switch. There's a switch in my brain that I have to turn off. That I'm like, I'm not in the technology world anymore. I'm now strings, nature. Everything is not. No more technology. You're not. You're now in a different space. To me, it sounds like when you said that screen time thing, it sounds like that they couldn't like turn off the fact that it's no more screen time. It's like they're still kind of wanting that, I guess, screen time kind of sort of. At least that's what I would
But there's
feel
different
like.
types
Well,
of
yes.
screen time. There's
Yes.
garbage screen time,
Yeah.
and then there's like
Entertainment.
productive
Yeah.
screen time for
Yeah.
sure. And kind of to your point about learning guitar with digital tools, but then being able to take that benefit away from the screen.
Yeah.
I really love that intersection. One of the in art. I don't make a lot of art, but
Yeah.
I did. In my bedroom, I made a mural of like the coastline of the Eastern Shore. So. Basically, I made a project that combined like digital tools and analog as well, where I just took the shoreline of the Eastern Shore, turned it on its side, kind of mapped out on a long rectangle, like the walls of my room on one, like if you kind of unfolded it, mapped out where the doors and windows were, and placed the map image kind of over it, projected it in pieces. Kind of traced, over it and painted in the rivers, and so anyway, there's space to kind of use that in a productive way, and that
because it sounds like to me it's all in that source of balance, and it's something. It sounds like because I guess I see. Oh, there's a commenter saying Rhythm is energizer and the organizer for the brain, which in a sense is like that balance, I guess. Like the balance being, okay, I'm learning this, all the productive stuff, and then you're jumping over, converting it to that other energy being which you have to actually, I guess,
What's
put it
the
into,
comment again?
The comment is from Tom Gurney. It says,
"Oh, Tom Gurney."
Yes.
Up, Tom? Hey, man.
And it says, "Rhythm is the energizer and the organizer for the brain."
Well, it's certainly an integral part. I mean, our brain is just a big network of different electronic signals bouncing around in super complex circuitry, and there's you throw off that rhythm on a fundamental way, your brain broke.
Yeah, it kind of I was gonna let you continue saying your thing. Were you still saying something? I didn't want to cut you off.
I think rhythm is really important in general. In a lot of ways, I think people operate best when they have a rhythm of life, when they're under a routine. I can say personally and this is kind of putting it in a little bit of a different context, but I've only been a classroom teacher for 3 years, and one thing I've gotten better at is establishing that rhythm, that routine. Every time we come in, we do a little bit of meditation. We do like 2 minutes or so. Just having that makes people more productive. I think.
Because I guess now jumping back to that, because now that put that idea back in my head, and now I'm understanding that. I guess it's not I'm gonna say it's not the screen time, in my opinion, probably about how things are learned. It's about people's rhythm when they're learning, I guess. Now that I'm thinking about it, because I'm sitting here like, screen time, there is bad and there is good, but if you like rhythmed out the bad screen time to kind of balance it with your productiveness, you can continue being productive, because there's a lot of people with the classic story of having to get to work with like 2 hours of sleep. It's not a good rhythm, but they're still making it happen, and then they slowly work their way back into probably the proper rhythm, and it's, I guess, jumping back to that, it's like establishing that rhythm. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like I established my guitar rhythm being, all right, I'm playing digitally, all right, playing it a few times, all right, let's get off the digital, now let's do it in the real world, all right, let's go back to digital. And that's probably why I keep the interest going, because it's, and then I guess more than just the interest, then it becomes a little bit of a ritual. I read some people saying that you should probably make it a ritual, because then you're doing it every other time and keeping it a thing.
That's the biggest factor in the biggest difference between someone who progresses with an instrument and someone who does not. It's the regular time, making it part of your routine. I encourage people to bake practice time into, like to attach practice time to some other part of their routine that is pre-existing. So like for kids, you know, I'll tell parents like, okay, maybe they come home and they have a snack and then they do homework and then there's dinner. So maybe before they have their snack, they do some practicing, or right after their snack, they do practicing, or right after dinner. You know, you just work it into the routine. You know, because habits are hard to create, but if you can bridge the new thing to something else that's already ingrained, you know, a lot of people find success with that.
Which is interesting because I guess now catching that little, hopefully continue riding that little wave. It's now thinking, I guess, a little bit, because I'm going to go back to the community, a little bit of a mindset, is like, it feels like in some parts of in communities around here, it's like there is really not too much of that rhythm. Only certain people have that rhythm, and then kind of expect others to have the same rhythm and to flow off of that same rhythm that everyone else is using currently, which is kind of I'm not going to say it shouldn't, in my opinion, be the way that it goes, but we should kind of, you know, probably teach, in my opinion, more of a rhythm.
Can you give me an example?
Let's see. I guess a basic one being a school routine. Everyone knows that they wake up and then they go to school, they do the thing, and then they go back. Most of the time, I know that this is going to sound a little weird, a lot of people aren't completely into the said routine and are doing it just to kind of glaze their way by. They're not exactly like having it as a routine. They're doing it because they have to, kind of an ordeal, versus the kid who's probably going to school as a routine, going in, doing their work, and then coming back home to, you know, continue doing their sports and such. Because I guess I'll say this, the way that I saw it, and I need to wish I could find that page again, because the way I saw it is that most kids who had like the after school activities tended to do well mostly did well in their classes, mostly because it was like that routine type of mentality. They didn't continue to think of school as so much of a drag, but more or less like we're doing this to get to this next step type of ordeal, where versus the kid who would go home, it was like, I'm just going to quickly get this out the way and then go do exactly what I want to do, get back to my real routine type of ordeal. So I don't know how you feel about that, because I'll say that was kind of
I think it would be interesting. There's a question of causality there, like a chicken and egg kind of thing. Like, are the people who stick to routines, is that created in after school activities? Is that pre-existing and they just end up like finding success and wanting to do extracurricular things? Maybe there's a bit of a feedback loop that you can generate, a virtuous cycle. Yeah,
because I know I'm going to jump back a little bit, because I would say most of the people who would kind of like go home versus the kids who would, I guess, do an after school activity, they would do that after school activity because they have an interest in it type of a thing. And sometimes when you take a class, you'll have like an interest in said class. Like you'll go to the class as a part of a routine to kind of continue bettering your craft because you're interested in said craft. Like, you know, I know a lot of people are going to say like, math, generally not the best subject a lot of people like to go through because it's testing your brain, and not many people like it because, you know, nowadays everyone's like, I have a calculator, or they'll look it up online, the formula, and then the formula gets solved with the numbers that are put in. So it's like, so then there's that versus the people who are like, well, I want to do this on my own. So then they'll go there, learn it so that they can implement it themselves. So I guess there is, I don't know where I was trying to go with that. I guess going back to that causality thing, being, is that the cause of why they feel like that one thing's important versus another, or why they want to bake it into a routine versus another thing?
I think, you know, a lot of that just comes from parents and what's around them.
Yeah.
People just imitate what's around them.
Yeah, going back to episode 1. Yeah, going back episode 1. That does make more sense. Yeah, I know. I'm jumping off various different boats here because I'm just like thinking. That's what I like. That's why I like this show, because it's just, we're going off on a tangent and we're kind of just sitting around thinking
out loud. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just saying it to ourselves, and it's being recorded so you can go back on it and expand upon said idea.
Sure.
Thinking about it like that, I'm like, that does make more sense. Hopefully I can put all this, because hopefully with all these episodes, I'm gonna try to put them all together to make one cohesive thought, hopefully.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's
Sounds
gonna
like
be
a lot of editing time.
Yeah, all these are at least an hour, so that's gonna be a lot of me going, which part makes more sense? But I am cutting them into clips, which I do post on my YouTube channel, the ideas that I feel like people should listen to if they can't watch the whole hour, because I don't expect people to watch the whole hour again. I kind of expect people to maybe watch a few minutes here and there.
Yeah,
when they feel like it. So it's thinking about it like that. I'm trying to also think where the heck I'm gonna jump off, what my next little thought jump off is gonna be. Do you have another thought jump off?
What video projects are you working on now? So I've seen a couple of things that you've done with Tim.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That worked out.
Yeah, I'm still doing like in terms of video, doing obviously this, and I've also been doing video like like web. Have you seen web comics or just comics in general? Like animating those, putting voice acting over them.
Really?
I have an example. I know that I wish I guess this will put it. I guess I could put it in post, but I don't know what I'll do. But there is I'll make sure you have to show actually instead.
Okay.
What that meant, but
so like
there's that too.
Animation.
Yeah, not animatic is the technical term for it, because it's an image, like animating an image versus animating frames. Frames animation and animatic is just like storyboard, play by play animation.
The kind of thing that can like react to like a voiceover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sort of, kind of. It's like like when they make animated movies or movies in general, they have a storyboard, then they have people talk over the storyboard to get an idea. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. So, yeah, that's another thing that I've been doing and figuring out and such as like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, we could jump on to readiness to learn and brain becoming more receptive to task attention, also by Tom Gurney. He's commenting a lot here. As a readiness to learn, the brain becomes more receptive to tasks and generalizes into other subjects' tasks.
Oh yeah. Well, and I wanted to say something on an earlier comment you made about how maybe it was in Japan where
yes.
younger kids start with like social learning, and that's something that I've really started to appreciate as an educator. Is you've got to put, like, they call it SEL, social emotional learning.
Yes.
You've got to put that first, because you can think of it as like the what's that hierarchy of needs? There's
which one? I've seen a lot.
It's basically where it's like at the bottom, you just want to feel safe, basically, yes. And then at the top it's like self-actualization.
Yes.
Right. And some kids, and I guess you could expand this out to just people in general. Some people just don't feel safe. They aren't, and if you're worried about your basic needs, you're not going to learn calculus. You're just not. Your brain's not in a state to add new information that's not relevant to surviving. And so I've been more conscious about setting kids up in that way, doing some work in that area for like the beginning of every class I teach. And this is with mostly kindergarten, definitely first grade up through fifth grade, is we start with like about 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes of some kind of a meditation exercise, whether it's some guided meditation. Maybe I just put on like a really pretty time-lapse video with some sparse soothing music, and we're just like, okay guys, just for a couple minutes we're gonna make some space in our brains for class. We're gonna, our voices are still, our bodies are still, our eyes are closed if you want to do that, and we're gonna bring our attention to our breathing. And it took because we started this mid-year, it took some real work to establish that routine, because a lot of kids are just like, well, what the heck is this? Like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
I'm bored.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the point. The point is to be bored.
Yes.
Some kids particularly, there are a couple who haven't really come around to it yet.
Yeah.
But man, there's a big difference in what happens after that, the quality of focus, and, and even taking some time, like a lot of classrooms have like an emotional check-in where you can take a little popsicle stick with your name on it and put it in one of 4 cups, red zone where you're kind of angry, yellow zone where you're nervous, green zone where you're good, and what is it? It's red, yellow, green, blue if you're kind of like sad.
Oh,
and
I've never heard that one.
and it's they do that at the beginning of every day, maybe every like class rotation, and it just makes everything else work better. So speaking of like readiness to learn, like you can't skip over that part. You skip over to the detriment of everything else that you want to do afterwards. And there's a balance, obviously,
always a balance.
I think more and more in education, there's a recognition of that you need to take care of people's like emotional needs
first
before anything else is going to happen.
Yeah, because that is the base. Because I'm looking at time and I'm like, we have a little bit more time. I know these hours kind of fly by. I thought it was slow. I thought we were only like 18 minutes. And I looked down and I'm like, oh Lord, it's almost been like an hour and 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh Lord. But I mostly just respect the guest time and my own for because I don't want to be like, oh yes, let us talk for 4.5 more hours. So I guess for the main point being because that's why I personally think that probably should be more of the focus, in my opinion, as well for the younger years. So then when they become older, that they know, school is a safe place, because most of them, they kind of think school isn't, I guess, a guarantee in some of their minds for some of them, in my opinion. I don't know exactly all for that in a sense. Some of them kind of just think, well, I'm here only to learn. They're not here for me and all this other type of sort of mess that it's a
lot of people, they bring a lot of baggage with them from home, and they project a lot onto teachers, and it's a struggle, man.
Yeah, it's not very healthy. Not very healthy.
But, investing time into that, like the SEL pays dividends later on. Yeah, the earlier you can kind of nip stuff like that in the bud, the better.
Yeah. Okay, well, that was an awesome talk about technology to education to every other little thing that I can think about that happened in this. So in terms of this, I'm going to say that this will probably be the end for this episode.
Okay.
Thanks again, Ray, for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for inviting me.
Another epic chat. And I will say, as my little plug, this show is sponsored by Cravens Comics. We are currently running a giveaway. You can check the last episode for more details on that. But if you want, you can just comment Lucky Pull, and we'll pick a random person to win that random stuff that's in that little pile. And I guess that was your final remark, just the SCL thing, SEL, and so that'll be the end of this episode. Thanks again for tuning in, and hopefully you'll tune in for the next one. All right, bye bye.
Toodaloo.